lot of news has been dropping today on Nike, their recent earnings, how this plays into what could be the NFT digital space, and how this may play out into a bigger picture of how utility can be built around community, digital brand sales, all sorts of things that really play into Web3. We're going to break this down for you today. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Metaverse Insider. All right, so I want to take a break and thank our sponsor. That is Ocean Crawler Watches. If you guys don't know, I'm a big watch fan. I love to collect watches, and I actually own an Ocean Crawler, and it's one of those that when you look at the dive business, this is probably one of the iconic watches out there. Now, they have a whole array of things. The ones I like are kind of interesting because, you know me, I'm a Bitcoin guy, so I love to look at what I think is their Bitcoin watch, and that is their Ocean Crawler Palladino, which is the Wavemaker V2. You can do pre-order on these right now. There's a really cool offer that they've given just to our audience, and that is a $150 discount. So all you have to do is use our link in the description of the video below or the podcast. If you're listening to this, may not get a chance to see these beautiful watches, but use the link. It'll take you to their website. Just use the code Baron, and that will give you the discount code. So all you have to do is do that. You're in like Flint, and make sure and let them know we sent you. All right, so let's jump into it today. I want to get into a couple of things for you guys. And you have to understand, first of all, a little bit of history, and we'll paint this up for you in the sense of where Nike has come from, the integration with Artifact, and also how this plays into the future of NFTs, digital sales, all of that. Let's just go to the stock price first. All right, so earnings calls, this is their Q2 2023. Their revenue beat by almost 6%, 5.9%. Let me kind of zoom up on that for you guys a little bit so you can kind of see. This is pretty significant when you compare this to other quarters, all right? You've got the 2.4, the 1.1, and the 3.1. And then all of a sudden, Nike comes booming out of the gates with a 5.9% earnings improvement. Now, this, of course, caused the Nike stock to do some pretty cool things. And that's usually meaning it goes up. The advantage that you have to look at is how does the S&P look at this, and then there's also some scenarios of what caused this, because this is the bigger, I think, picture that a lot of people are looking at. Nike stocks lead the Dow, S&P after obviously they crushed earnings views, crushed their views on earnings. And I think the key here again is Nike has been, I would say, the one company that has been able to put together a digital strategy that is significant. And now there's a lot of people that have done e-commerce digital sales. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of companies that have done that. But Nike is taking it like one step greater. And what they're trying to do is create this digital physical connection. Some people call it phygital, but the whole point is there's a lot of runway here that Nike could be in front of. Here's their just a quick little look at what caused this. And this was the Nike digital sales growth. 34% worldwide in just the Q2. Now remember, just Q2 here. So what does this look like as we start to really see this flow out for Nike in the coming years? There was a couple of things that we highlighted here. Grew the digital sales by 34. The retail reported that the Nike direct sales are sales made directly to consumers online and in their physical stores rather than through wholesale. So some of this came from retail sales via digital. And everybody, I think, uses the Nike app, probably run the sneakers app for drops and things of that nature. But the direct-to-consumer sales growth is the one that I'm most interested in. That's what we highlighted right there. This, I think, is where it starts to break down into some opportunities for Nike. And we showcased this a few weeks back. Make sure and check out our Nike videos where we break down some of the things that they were able to do in the NFT side and what digital sales might look like in terms of assets. So we'll talk about that in another video, but I wanted you guys to go back and take a look at that. The other things that really play into this is, remember, Artifact was the big partnership, the big acquisition. One day left. This is the whole situation on the crypto kicks. This is the, kind of the IRL mint that they did. I'll just play that for you guys to give you an idea, because this is the real physical aspect of how an NFT and a digital asset is converting now to a true physical asset. And this also is going to tie into a lot of things that start to go into the longer vein strategy of how Nike is going to go to market. This, to me, right here, is going to start to set up a lot of different tools that Nike is really going to blow through. And there's some other things here, was just showing some additional stuff. Here's the in real life built for action now by Champions. This is one of the Olympic medalists. Again, we'll probably see more and more of this. And the thing that is interesting to me is when you really break down what Artifact has been able to do over the past year, pay attention to the fashion side of this. Pay attention to the wearables side of this, because this is where I think Nike starts to separate. They've already separated from the pack, but they're going to start to separate from, I think, most businesses in general. By far, right now, the number one concept company out there in terms of building on Web3. Here's a good example: Mint and Forging event now open. This was the Artifact and the Ducks of a Feather kind of concept. But the whole point on this one was really cool in the sense that you get these new virtual helmets, so to speak. And there's some aspects to this that have physical components, including that jacket right there. The Ducks, obviously, for the Oregon Ducks right there. But I want to showcase how this looks right here. Let me back this up for you guys so you can kind of see this happen in real time. Let me pop that out for you. All right, so you can kind of see, interesting tool set. Now watch how this integration works. And again, remember, a lot of this is going to start working through all sorts of filters, things within Instagram, things within TikTok. The likelihood of this going into the next level of social media and use case is going to be real. But they're teaming up right now with Division Street to support its mission to empower the University of Oregon. This is all about building in what I think is the future. Now, remember, Oregon, very, very close to Nike's heart. That was the origin of the Nike Swoosh. It was the origin of Nike, the company. When you go all the way back to Steve Prefontaine, the guy who literally put Nike on the map, that is their lineage back to Oregon. And I think this is a really interesting place to connect the dots here, because it could be the future of what the next evolution of Nike might look like. Remember, .swoosh right here. We showcased this also in a previous video. Go back and check the video out, because I don't want to go in and rebuild that for you, because there's a lot here around what .swoosh is and what it means. The bigger picture here is the fact that they have had an unbelievably successful digital sales quarter. And this, I think, is just the beginning. So what this means for a lot of companies is, how are they going to start to integrate? Because many people will say, well, Paul, that's just a one-off. It's just a one-hit wonder kind of thing. I don't think so. I think Nike is putting up and developing a strategy here that might be changing the course of retail forever. We'll see what that plays into. And I'll just ask you guys, what's the number one asset when you think of sneakers? Because obviously when you think of Nike, you think of sneakers. And what would be the number one sneaker for you? And let's don't go with the Air Jordan, because let's just say Jordan is Jordan. That's a little different, even though I think Jordan's going to be in the play here. What would you call that right now? Drop a comment down below before we mention it. You know what it is. It's the Air Force One. It is the culture classic of what Nike has built the brand on. It's what lifestyle shoes were essentially launched with in the United States and worldwide. And what do? Here's their .swoosh blog. The challenge continues. And this went through, I'll scan down, but this goes through. You probably have already seen some of these. I know we ended up, my family ended up buying some of these, of a lot of these kind of regional components, marketing, the heritage versions. You can kind of see all of this was being able to, and for the community to start to engage with Nike in the creation of all of this type of product, including digital product. Now I'm going to continue further on down, because there's a highlight right here. Speaking of the finals, why wait? Round 3 begins Thursday and Friday. We'll break down the results from round 2 in a post before we go live with the voting. By this weekend, we'll have 4 of our 8 final pairs, and next week we'll explain exactly what we're doing with all this information. My anticipation is there may be something here that's going to be flowing into NFTs and possibly digital and or phygital type developments for Nike. That could be another release that goes beyond what we're seeing with CryptoKicks. So lots of stuff to watch. And as many people always ask me, Paul, what is the use case? What is the use case for blockchain? What is the use case for NFTs? We're finding the use case right now. We're starting to see the build outs of companies who have taken the risk, taken the opportunity, and started to really understand their own brand DNA, the DNA of the next emerging consumer. We all know where that's coming from. When you think about alphas and even Gen Z, the future of where we're going to see digital assets in the future, those two, just look at those two demographics, and you will understand why this is so important. Here was the November recap for Nike, and you can kind of see their Air Force One program kind of flowing through. But I just think there's a lot here, guys, that we're going to need to be watching, and you can see it right here. Remember, Swoosh Sessions presented by Nike's Virtual Studios. This is the company that essentially is starting to build into the games, all those kind of integrations that could create some very unique opportunities to expand Nike beyond the framework of, Oregon and the running shoe. I think this is starting to change Nike's DNA, and it's doing it in a way that could start to bridge that gap into the metaverse, into Web3, and into digital assets. We see all this play out. You can kind of see here, Los Angeles, then you've got Up NYC in the Bronx, Social Status in Charlotte, APB in Tallahassee, and then Oneness in Louisville. These are all big sessions that I think they're continuing to understand pop culture. They're continuing to understand the connection to this emerging market. And I think this right here is the future of where Web3 is going. So if you're watching for these guys in terms of companies that are going to be doing it right, Nike's going to be your pretty much your number one. And listen, Wall Street kind of likes it. Just look at the numbers here. Bam. This is the 5-day. That's the kind of impact we saw that moved Nike from $103 stock to immediately $116. So you see a pretty massive increase here. I think Wall Street might actually start to get what they're up to. This will be the question mark if this continues. If we see more growth in the next quarter with Nike, grant my word, we are going to see an influx of major corporations moving into Web3 and trying to follow in the footsteps of Nike. So there's a lot happening to go there. I want to wrap up with a couple of things, and that is Starbucks. Remember, we did a story on them and we did a breakdown. You saw my breakdown. I wasn't really happy about what Starbucks did, but at the outset, I think they still have an opportunity to still pull this off and still make some great strides. But you can kind of see this was a guy that actually did a Starbucks NFT, how much he bought and sold it for. You can kind of see the original listing right there. He sold it for $200. So he made some NFT money. And you can kind of see there's some movement here. It's not bad. And this is the kind of thing that tells me that your brand opportunity is so great today in the evolution of where NFTs and Web3. If the strategy is right and it's really sexy, like a Nike, like a Swoosh, like Artifact, and the integration and the strategy and the technology integration that company had to do to make that happen, meaning Nike, this is so ready for so many of these major multi-billion-dollar brands. It is just a matter of time before we see this start to leverage in. Last up is, don't forget, it all runs on one thing. Yes, Polygon. I got to have fun with this, guys, because it's one of those things that when you go, hey, this is either going to be the greatest thing that's ever happened in technology, or everybody's going to have egg on their face. I don't think that's going to be the case with brands like Nike, Adidas, Walt Disney, all playing in this, of course, Meta as well, Stripe, remember the payment company, and then you got Nike in here. This is going to get big, people. Stay awake. The game is beginning. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.